Alrighty, so let's go ahead and knock this out the park.
Yep.
I look okay?
Fabulous.
Okay.
You were made for this.
Oh.
You got a great voice, got a great story.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna restart this set because it's blinking too much.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm gonna restart the set.
That's fine.
So one of the things about what you're doing is you're taking your traumatic experience and you're springboarding it to make yourself even better, right? So think about anybody that's gone to jail. Their story doesn't result typically in success.
Yeah.
It becomes a revolving door.
Yeah.
You're breaking through that, right?
Yeah.
You're taking that tragedy as you knew and as you experienced what can be very bitter,
Yeah.
very angry.
Yeah.
And you could completely isolate yourself, right? You could have moved to the middle of nowhere in Louisiana and just been like, everybody, forget about family, forget about friends. I hate all of you, right?
Yeah.
And then we never hear your story.
Yeah.
And then so what you're doing though is you're taking that story now and you're giving it a platform for other people
Yeah.
that they can
Thanks, bud.
get better.
Thank you for painting that picture. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Because not everybody goes this way, right?
Yeah.
Think about that, right?
Fuck you.
You've seen these people, you've heard their stories. It doesn't go this way.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that you're a kind-hearted soul that you want to help others be better too.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right.
So that's where I think your next installment of book, yeah, that'll be powerful because it's so hard to feel normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. So it's not so.
I count 5, 4, and I stop. You keep counting. 3, 2, 1, and get ready.
Okay.
Without saying anything.
My note card is there. Okay. Remember, sit tall, be tall.
Sit tall, be tall.
All right. 5, 4.
Transmitiendo desde Houston, las manos ya. Estás escuchando Now Media Radio.
Hello, beautiful people. I'm sending you good vibes and a great big hug. Welcome to our first episode of Be Better with Suzanne. This is so exciting. My vision for this show, Be Better with Suzanne, is to bring people together, to offer a platform where we can come together and share real life experiences.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
That was a good one too, Alberto. I'm gonna kick your butt.
Let's start over again. I forgot to record. just start.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad he said it now versus 5 minutes into it. Oh, should I disrupt him?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That was good volume.
Yeah, thank you.
Your start was very good. Okay. Five, 4.
Transmitiendo desde Houston, las manos ya. Estás escuchando Now Media Radio.
Hello, beautiful people. I'm sending you good vibes and a great big hug. Welcome to our first episode of Be Better with Suzanne. This is so exciting. I'm so happy to be here. My vision for Be Better with Suzanne is to create a platform, a community where we can all come together to share real life experiences, to inspire, to motivate each other, and to essentially be better together. A little bit about me. My name is Suzanne Nguyen. At the age of 22, I lost my dominant arm in a car accident, and I went through a whirlwind of emotions. And there are many times where I felt like my world was tumbling down and I didn't know what to do. Fast forward 19 years later, it took a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of love to get to where I'm at. And we'll go more into detail, but I want to introduce my good friend, my mentor, Sherman on. He's going to be interviewing me so we can get to know each other a little bit more. Hi, Sherman.
Hey, Susan. Thank you so much for having me on the Be Better with Susan show.
Yes, I am so excited you're here. It would not be the same without you, my friend.
Well, one of the things that you and I talked about, and it's a real big theme when you're in your coaching experience, is having people be vulnerable. And so you thought in the first episode, why not you be vulnerable with the audience? And so I think that's a great opportunity for you to be able to share with them your story of vulnerability, especially because some people might not have read the book, One Armed but Not Unarmed. So for those people that haven't read the book, can you share with them a little bit about your experience and what brought us here today?
Yes, I'd love to, Sherman. So, at the age of 22, I was involved in a horrible car accident, and in result of that, losing my dominant arm. I went through depression. I isolated myself, and there were many moments, to be completely transparent, I didn't want to be alive. I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. I felt like a monster. I felt deformed, and there were many mornings where I just didn't want to get out of bed. I was self-medicating. I was deflecting the pain that I was truly going through. And vulnerability was crucial in my recovery. I needed to accept the fact that I now have one hand. I needed to try to love myself and who I still was. I still had my same heart. I was still the same person, although I had a new physical scar. I needed to realize that I was the same Susan, right? So I went through depression and isolating myself, and I just went through the worst time of my entire life. I couldn't adequately describe what I was feeling during that time. But reaching a turning point, I realized that I wanted to be better instead of being bitter. After being released from intensive care unit at Bintob, I went home and I was still really down and out. I felt like no one in my previous life understood what I was going through, the loss of a limb. Although my family support was incredible and they tried so hard to sympathize and to show affection and to be supportive, I just felt like no one could understand what I was going through. So it was difficult, it was hard, but I do encourage vulnerability. Once you're able to move forward and be vulnerable, it's amazing. It can really shift your energy and help you move forward in your journey.
So what happened that fateful night when you went out with your friends? Describe to people. Because sometimes it's a little awkward to have to ask someone, what happened?
Right. Well, I decided to go out with some friends, a spontaneous night out. We had a good time. And on the way home, it was dark and drizzling, and I was the driver. A car hydroplaned on the wet street near us, which caused me to react and lose control of the wheel. After the car flipped several times, I was then ejected from the windshield. And when I landed, a piece of the car severed my arm completely. It was so crazy because when I got to the hospital, the team of doctors approached me and they mentioned that I was actually pretty lucky, because if the ambulance had not arrived when they did, if they were 60 seconds later, then I would have been in a vegetative state due to shock. So waking up in the hospital, I was informed that they needed to amputate my arm. So I woke up and I was a completely different person. And it was horrible. I felt like when the doctors approached me with that news, I wasn't really able to process it. I couldn't understand what they were saying. I didn't want to understand, and I just wasn't ready to accept what they were saying. So it was the worst time of my entire life, and sadly, it was only the beginning of my journey.
And so a lot of times in these journeys, people have a tendency to hit a rock bottom. Did you have to go through something like that, Susan?
I did. I surely did. I talk about it more in my book, but during my recovery of isolating myself and locking myself in my room and not really wanting to speak with anyone, I had some friends that convinced me to get out of the house, and my mom thought it was a good idea as well. Susan, get out of the house, go do something, go be with your friends. But maybe it wasn't the right time. They say our perception is based on our recent experiences, and of course my recent experience was full of anger, full of bitterness, right? Just overwhelmed with so many emotions that I couldn't even identify myself. So going out that night was a mistake. Being the angry person I was, I got in an altercation with another group of girls, and sadly, I ended up in jail. I let the anger get the best of me. And I share this in my book, which was so hard for me to do, because I wanted to share with people that anger, it doesn't solve anything, but it destroys everything. And also what I learned was that regardless of how we feel, how we react, we are responsible for. So it was that turning point. And I remember that turning point clearly. I was laying in bed at my mom's house, and I'd been crying from dusk till dawn. My eyes were so puffy. They were almost swollen shut. I could barely open them. And I was laying in bed, and I saw the sun peeking through the blinds, and my heart was so heavy, and I was still so angry and upset at myself. Losing my arm was a horrible experience. Now, landing myself in jail with an assault case, like, what was I doing to myself? I was at the lowest of low, and I felt like I disappointed everyone around me. So that was my turning point.
And what did you decide in that moment of, I guess, realization, right? I think that's what you talked about, reframing in a little bit in the book. Is that kind of what happened for you, is that you just saw things more clearly in that moment?
You're right. In that moment, I started reframing the situation, right? I was thinking to myself, at least I'm still here. At least I'm still with my loved ones. At least I'm still breathing. And through those thoughts, I started trying my best to adopt an attitude of gratitude, because being grateful was a huge factor in my recovery, one of them. I've heard that you don't know how strong you are until your strength has been tested, and that was absolutely true as well. I didn't realize how strong I was to be able to get myself up the next day and try my best to view things differently, to start sharing how I felt with others, with those around me. I started journaling, and that was really important as well. I actually encourage all of my coaching clients to journal. Our thoughts, having them is one thing, but when we actually write them down and put the pen to paper, it becomes visual and more powerful. And I was able to start journaling my thoughts and how I felt on a daily basis, and start setting goals of what I wanted to do next week, or what I wanted to try to do in 2 weeks or next month. So just really getting myself out there again, being vulnerable with my friends and family. And that led to accepting my new reality.
So it sounds like through this process you had a good support group. Did you feel lonely, although you were surrounded by friends and family?
In the beginning, absolutely, I did. I felt like no one in my previous life understood the type of pain, physical and emotional, that I was going through. Although I love my family and I love my friends, and they were trying their hardest to be there for me, to try to say the right words and hug me the right way and be affectionate, but I felt alone because I felt like they had no idea the pain I was feeling inside. Although they're trying their best, I definitely felt alone many times.
And then in those moments of bitterness and anger, what helped you find a better outlet? Because you said for a while you were self-medicating, you were not in a very good place, very bitter. What helped you kind of find that strength?
Right. There are many things that I believe helped me find that strength. I would say the love of my family, the love I had for myself, the potential I knew I had. I still had a bright future. I was still a good person inside. I felt like I just didn't want my life to be over, and I knew that if I continued to be negative, if I continued to be bitter, if I continued to self-medicate and lock myself in the room, my life was soon going to be over. So that thought flashed in front of my eyes. And just the love of my parents, how strongly they were trying to fight to make me happy and to do certain things for me, and just the people that were surrounding me, the love I felt. I think that would be a huge factor in my recovery.
You'd mentioned the powerful presence of your husband, at the time was a boyfriend. And because as people that can't watch the show, they're in the audio format, they might not notice that you don't have a prosthetic. Can you talk a little bit about that recognition and how he played a role in helping you?
Yes, gladly. So my husband, his name is Fu, Phu. I met Fu through mutual friends after my car accident. And when we first met, I thought he was a really kind soul. He never looked at me any differently because during that time I was wearing my prosthesis. And we were hanging out for a couple of months. He lived in New Orleans, Louisiana. He would make that trip down to visit me, which is about a 6-hour drive, every single weekend for the next several months. So during one of the visits, he actually had the nerve to ask me a powerful question. And he asked me, "Why are you wearing your prosthesis?" I was shocked. I was taken back. But I was actually also really relieved that someone finally asked me that question. Why on earth was I wearing it? I believe I was wearing it just to fool myself, thinking there was something still there. But truly it was uncomfortable. It was causing blisters. It was heavy. It was extremely uncomfortable. And when he asked that, it was such a profound question. So I took it off and I was swinging it around. No, I'm just kidding.
That'd been awesome.
So after that, I decided that I no longer wanted to wear it. And he reminded me that I was lovable no matter what. So that's why I decided to marry the guy.
Yeah. Now you locked him down. So then one of the interesting things is you're a certified coach. You speak, you've been on many talk shows. The idea of the book, where did that come from? Just because it's very much, as you mentioned, you're sharing some real vulnerable things there. The bitter place that you were, the darkness, you go into some details, just share really interpersonal experiences and thoughts. And you even talk about being in jail. And so what prompted you to write a book?
Great question, Sherman. Man, I've always loved writing. that was something I really enjoyed doing, putting my thoughts to paper, really just allowing myself to feel those emotions and write them down. And I feel like writing is also a form of healing, right? It's very therapeutic. But I didn't believe I was going to write a book, but one of my good friends and mentor, Patrick Hubbard, actually kept on nudging me. Susan, you gotta write a book. That's another great platform that your message needs to be heard. And I wasn't sure, but I decided to write more, and next thing you know, One Arm But Not an Arm was published in April, and it's gone international. Walmart.com picked it up. It's been amazing. It really has. And I feel that writing the book was very therapeutic. I'll be honest with you, Sherman. During the time of the process of writing this book, man, I had nightmares. I went through a slight depression again. There were nights where I would wake up and I would be extremely emotional, crying because I thought I still had my arm. And I didn't, and it was really tough. But I feel like during that time of writing the book and sharing my message, it needed to be heard because I truly wanted to help people overcome adversity, hardship, and loss. And that was my main inspiration, was to continue sharing my message to others. And you mentioned earlier just being transparent and being vulnerable in the book. Oh, it was so difficult. And there were times I wasn't sure if I wanted to share the part of me being in jail for being so angry. But my husband encouraged me, and he mentioned, if you don't share it, you're not speaking your truth. You must share it. And I did. It was hard for me to share it though, because in real life, when we go through something so traumatic, something we're so embarrassed and humiliated about, when on earth do we want to circle back and relive those experiences?
Yes.
To feel that pain. Oh man, it was hard. So being able to put my painful experiences in the book and sharing it with everyone was difficult, but I feel good that I did that. I'm proud of myself that I was able to share that, and I have no regrets whatsoever.
And that's what's amazing, Susan, is that you're taking this experience, this traumatic experience, and this really influential turning point, and you're sharing it with the world. But before we get any further, I know that we want to thank a sponsor for today's show.
Absolutely. This show is sponsored by Stacy Mai, Champions Real Estate Group Broker and Platinum Agent. For those of you that are hearing this, I can go ahead and share her email address and her phone number, although she would love for you to give her a call. Her email address is StacyMai, StacyMai, StacyMai02 at outlook.com, my apologies. And her contact phone number is 832-744-4084. She is located in the Houston area. And thank you so much, Stacy Mai, for sponsoring Be Better with Susan.
All right. Well, thank you, Stacy. Appreciate that. And so one of the things that we definitely want to dig into is this springboard that you've done with this tragedy. And so you've, why don't you kind of give a little bit of kind of update for some people on what you're doing besides being a certified coach and certified in happiness, and some different shows that you've been on.
Great. So I have been on an amazing book tour for One Arm But Not an Arms, which is available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Actually, Sherman, I found out that I was Googleable.
Whoa.
So if you go onto Google, you type in my first and last name, there's a slew of information on where you can find the book One Arm But Not an Arms. But recently I was in Seattle for New Day Talk Show, which was an amazing experience. just sharing my message on being better instead of being bitter. In September, I'm heading to San Diego to be a part of Voices of Courage, which is a global show, which I'm very excited about. Recently, I was named as Houston Trailblazer, which was awesome, and by Voyage magazine, which I'm very proud of. And there are so many great things. Another thing was from WGN Chicago, they named me as most valuable person on the planet, which was, wow, me? That was awesome. So if you take a look on Google, you'll see what I'm up to, where I've been, what radio show I've been on to. But a couple things I'm working on, which I am so excited about. One of my colleagues and I are working on a resilience workshop.
And tell people, what is that gonna be like?
Great. So the resilience workshop that we are creating will be for local hospitals, right? Right now we're in the planning phases with Ben Taub, which is a trauma hospital, which is a really interesting story, Sherman. I shared with him, but I'd love to share with you guys. So I was actually admitted to Ben Taub Hospital after the loss of my arm. So if I were to be able to go back to Ben Taub and to be able to teach a resilience workshop for the employees and also for the trauma patients, talk about going full circle, right?
Yes.
How amazing would that be? So we're in the planning phases with Ben Taub. I pray to God that works out well. And the resilience workshop we want to present is to be able to encourage and inspire people to remain resilient. There are many times when our world comes tumbling down and something negative happens and we don't know how to respond to that. We want to get you ready. We want to prepare you to be resilient. So if things were to happen, you know how to respond. So resilience is a huge factor in my recovery. And I feel like that has taught me how to bounce back from other things that have happened to me even after the car accident. So the resilience workshop is something we are so proud of. So if anyone out there is interested, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk more about that with you. Another thing I'm working on is an online overcoming adversity class. I've taken all the painful lessons I've learned, all the life experiences I've learned in the past 2 decades, and I'm going to compress it in a class. It's going to be about 6 to 8 hours. We're going to talk about vulnerability. We're going to talk about identifying emotions. We're going to talk about re-engaging hope. And we're going to talk about something very tough, which is going to be eliminating people, things, and environment, toxic environment. So it's a powerful class, and I am extremely excited about that one. I feel like it can change lives. So look out for that class. It should be released by the end of the year. Another thing I'm working on is writing a Be Better book geared towards adolescents. I feel like growing up in this era is so difficult, right, Sherman?
Absolutely.
With these social media comparisons and internet culture. Growing up, I didn't experience as much as the youth is experiencing now. So maintaining that positive inner voice daily has to be difficult. So I want to help with that. I want to remind the adolescents how amazing they are, regardless of any physical scar, regardless of being different. You are still beautiful and amazing. So I'm excited about writing a book for the youth. Be better.
And so I know a big part of you being vulnerable in sharing your story in your book, and also here on your show, the Be Better with Susan show. Why don't you tell a little bit for those that are listening and those that are watching, how can they be a part of their own journey in being able to be better?
Right, so what I'm really excited for with the Be Better show is we will have a platform for guest call-ins. So I would love for you to call in, to share what's heavy in your heart, to share what challenges, what battles you're having, and I would genuinely love to see what I can do to guide you through. I want to be a part of your journey. I want us to be better together. You're also able to reach out to me on social media. If you're not interested in calling in, perhaps send me a message on my social media handle and ask me any questions or any topics you'd like to discuss. But I would love to be on this Be Better journey with you. If there is anything I can do, there's my website, bbnbcoaching.com. My email is Suzanne with a Z, Suzan, at bbnbcoaching.com. And my social media is Susan Nguyen. I add the ing for a fun play on words, Susan winning. You like that,
I love
Sherman?
it. I love it. Susan is winning.
Yay! So once again, feel free to reach out to me. If there's anything I can do for you, I truly love to be a part of your Be Better journey in any way I can.
So a lot of times in a scenario like this, people have a tendency to get stuck in a rut of the woe is me perspective. You talk a little about reframing. Can you go into a little more detail, because I know you're a certified coach, of what that is for someone that might be dealing with something right now?
Fantastic. Great question, Sherman. So reframing is a very powerful coaching tool. Reframing was something I needed to do during my car accident, and reframing is something I do on a daily basis. So what reframing is when we reframe our thoughts around a certain situation. For instance, when I reframed my car accident, yes, I walked away with a terrible loss, with the loss of my arm, with the limb. But then I reframed my thoughts that at least I'm still here. At least I'm still around my loved ones, surrounded by the people I love. I'm able to still enjoy the delicious food. I'm able to sit here and share my message with you. So reframing is extremely important on a daily basis, and something I encourage my coaching clients to do as well. But you're right, many of us, when we go through something difficult, it's easy for us to say, woe is me, for us to feel negative and feel sorry for ourselves. And I get it. I went through that. I felt sorry for myself for a long period of time. But then that became exhausting, making up excuses for myself. It was something I no longer wanted to do, because yes, the loss of my arm was tragic, but I felt I was more than just my arm. I knew I was destined for greatness, and I knew that I still had potential. So I am here to share my message, to take everything I've learned, the painful experiences, the heartache, the tears, and now I want to help you overcome your hardship, overcome your loss, be able to shift your energy, be able to help you be vulnerable, to be transparent, to speak your truth, and ultimately be better together.
All right. So in a lot of exciting things going on, right? Certified coach, you got speaking engagements, people can get in touch with you. You have the Be Better with Susan show. A lot of great things going. For you, where does that motivation come from? Where's that why? What's pressing that for you to move at such a rapid pace?
That's a great question. Thank you, Sherman. I'll be honest with you. At my first speaking engagement at the corporate office of Mattress Firm, their national conference, shout out to Mattress Firm. I love you guys. Great company, great culture. I was supposed to give a bed talk, which is their version of a TED Talk at their national conference. I was nominated, selected to speak, and I was so nervous. I still remember clearly the morning of the event. I was rehearsing my lines, completely blacked out. I felt the need to vomit. I was so nervous. I didn't think I could do it, but I did. I walked on stage in front of 1,500 people, and I shared my message of being better instead of being bitter. It was an adrenaline rush, and the love and support I had from family and friends that attended was amazing. After that, receiving many messages from the people across the country getting in touch with me after seeing my YouTube video of that event. Also, after the impact I had after the show, there were people in the audience that ran up to me and started sharing, Susan, I went through this. And they're sharing their story of adversity. Not any story of losing a limb, but story of going through hardship, of their father walking out on them when they were young, of losing their mom at a young age, of losing a baby from a miscarriage. That's loss, that's hardship, right? So the beautiful thing is, I feel like we all go through some type of adversity, but we're all after the same goal, which is to heal, to be able to be better instead of being bitter. So it is all because of the love I have from people that have told me your story has helped me move forward. After hearing your story, I no longer want to be bitter. I want to be better. So that is what keeps me going.
And it seems like there's a lot of people helping push you in this process. And so I know one of them, we just want to thank again for her sponsoring the show today, Stacy. So if we can just give a few words, those that want to reach out.
Yep, Stacy Mai, thank you so much for your sponsorship. She's with Champions Real Estate Group. She's a broker and platinum agent. Her email address is stacymai, STACEYMAI02 But you can feel free to give her a ring. She would love to hear from you. Her number is 832-744-4084. Once again, she's with Champions Real Estate Group, broker and platinum agent Stacy Mai. Thank you so much for your sponsorship for Be Better with Susan.
All right, well, thanks again, Stacy. As we kind of close off this episode today of the first show, the inaugural show.
Yay!
Yeah. One of the things that you're really pushing people to be is authentic and vulnerable. And so can you talk to someone maybe that might be dealing with something right now, how that can play a role in helping them to be better and not bitter?
Absolutely. As for me, when I was going through the loss of my arm, being vulnerable is something I wasn't ready to do. I didn't want to share with people how weak I thought I was feeling, how low I felt at the moment. I was deflecting with being angry and reacting to certain situations and self-medicating, but that was all such a horrible path that I took. When I was finally able to allow myself to feel the awful thing that happened to me, when I was finally able to share the depth of my pain and despair with those around me, I was being vulnerable. And man, that felt good. I didn't realize the power of vulnerability until I experienced it on my own. It's not easy, I get it. I completely get it. It's the last thing we want to do by nature. Who wants to feel pain? Who wants to cry? Who wants to be in such a dark place? But that is the first step in order to moving forward. If you're not vulnerable, you won't be able to move forward. We must speak our truth. We must be raw with our emotions and with how we feel. And once again, if you feel like there's no one out there that can hear you, that can listen, please call in. We have guest call-ins and I'm welcoming you to do just that. But yes, vulnerability is crucial in order to being able to move forward in your journey.
And I know that you had mentioned, as a final thought here, having to accept pain. Talk a little about how that played a role for you in your journey of recovery.
Right. Accepting the pain goes hand in hand with being vulnerable. I've learned that the pain I experienced has helped me become stronger in ways I've never imagined. The pain I experienced has helped me become more grateful for those around me. And pain can actually benefit you. Imagine that. There's something that I read that is so true, and I'd like to share it with you. If we don't give the healing the attention it needs, it will continue to return for resolution. We must face that pain. We must. And that's a part of being vulnerable. That's a part of allowing yourself to feel those emotions. It's a part of you growing from that pain. It's so hard to do, I get it. But if there's anything I can help with, once again, my site is bbnbcoaching.com. I help people on overcoming adversity, on shifting their energy, and ultimately being better instead of being bitter. But I believe in you. If I can do it, I know you can as well. But if we use the pain that we've experienced the right way, then it can help us in ways you've never imagined. And I speak about it from experience.
So people can check you out on multiple platforms of social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You got the upcoming show in San Diego here, which is very exciting. You're available for speaking engagements as well. Mm-hmm. You're available for coaching. The show, Be Better with Suzanne's, and continue to come out. People can read the book, One Armed But Not Unarmed. There's so many things you're getting involved with, Susan, which is just wonderful. What a way to help people to get better themselves.
Thank you so much, Sherman, and it was a treat having you here today. I love you, Sherman On. Check him out on social media. He has a ton of positive stuff going on, and he's trying to leave a positive legacy, and I am proud of you. I love you wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for co-hosting with me on my first episode, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed our first show. I hope that you tune in for our next show. And I'm signing off. Let's be better together.
What
do you think?
It went good.
I want you here all the time. Oh my God, I love you, dude. Oh my God.
That was good. That was good.
That's it.
What do you think?
Did it sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I love it.
Let's take some